Welcome to Your Chakras Are Open. We are still in the introduction portion of this course. So today what I'm going to share with you is Kundalini Shakti. You may be meeting this Kundalini Shakti for the first time in your life because most of the world thinks of Kundalini as a dormant power, a dormant serpent laying at the base of the spine. So where we get this translation from is from Arthur Avalon misinterpreting Kundalini. So what Kundalini actually is, or who she actually is the goddess herself, not a representation of it. It's not that the serpent, well, throughout other cultures, the serpent does represent the goddess. So it may be one of those things that's like before language, that the serpent energy does have a correlation with the goddess. But Kundalini is basically, if you think of a coiled serpent is like a spring. And so saying that Kundalini was a coiled serpent didn't mean literally that she was a serpent laying dormant at the base of the spine, which is what, if you Google Kundalini, you will find something like that, which gives the impression that Kundalini is asleep, needing to be roused awake, which puts also the feminine and also women and also anything that relates with femininity as a sort of dormant, passive energy. What Kundalini actually meant was that the inhale and the exhale merged together and would spring open. And so Kundalini is, yes, coiled, but also because there's this, if you have one of these slinkies or a spring, let's use that analogy of a spring, that when you have given them the friction of pressure, and that friction and pressure is your every single breath. So it's not hard to create that friction in your body. Every inhalation and exhalation, there is this opportunity for the friction to be so great that it springs your life force out. So if you have been practicing pranayama, I will teach you one practice in this course that I hope you will take with you for the rest of your life. It's very powerful, and especially with this teaching that I'm going to share with you. Using this particular breath practice I'll teach you with the knowledge of Kundalini that I'm sharing with you now, your whole life, every inhalation, every exhalation will energize your body. You will have more vitality. You will be more radiant, more vital and powerful. So I'm going to talk to you about that breath practice probably at the end of all of this. After we get through the 7 chakras, I'll share with you the breathing practice. So this coil is going to spring forth at every breath. And for most of us, if we're not consciously doing the breathing practice, and I feel like there are people, you meet people who are naturally more vital and they're not necessarily yogis, but I met a person who's almost 50 and he looks amazing. He's beautiful. He surfs. He's got a small daughter. And I asked him, how are you so vital and energized and potent in your life? And what he said was, there's never a wave that I wanted that I didn't take. There was never an opportunity that I wanted to try and I didn't take it. So just saying that he was fully engaging with life. And so, he's naturally breathing. He's naturally fully taking it in and fully releasing his exhalation all throughout life. So that there are people like that who are naturally living that way. But for most of us, we will take in a little bit. Do you feel worthy enough to receive a full breath? Do you allow yourself space in your body to receive a full breath? And then when you exhale, do you fully exhale and trust that there will be another breath? And these are all below awareness. It's not something that we're consciously thinking about as we're breathing. But in our society, we mostly breathe from the collarbones up. It's just very short. I can't do it anymore, but because I've been breathing deep for so many years that it's hard to. Okay, so what you do basically is pretend you're going to smoke something. And so all these neck muscles get engaged, and we're not actually bringing our awareness all the way down to the pelvis with our breath. So Kundalini is not at the base of the spine, laying there waiting to be awakened. Kundalini is all pervasive. There's also some preliminary practices. Okay, before I get into the preliminary practices, this chakra system, and I know I mentioned this in the introduction video, the chakra system is a map of your subtle body so that when you're doing these breathing practices, you're able to visualize the nadis, Ida and Pingala. You're able to visualize the central channel, Sushumna Nadi, and you're able to visualize the moon coming in as your inhalation, going down through these areas in your body, meeting with Kundalini at the base of the spine, not because she lives there, but because there's one chakra below that, which I will talk about in module 1. But that when we exhale, that we're able to move the sound through all these places with visualizing them and making the sound and moving it through the body. And the whole point is that the inhale and exhale, eventually I'm going to make a loud sound. They eventually have a fusion and merge together inside the Sushumna Nadi. And from that fusion, which is Hatha is a fusion of sun and moon breath inside Sushumna Nadi, that you can exhale and burn through all of, you can call it, they call it psychic knots. I'm thinking of the Sanskrit words. There's, I'm losing them. There's 3 different words. One of them is basically debris. One of them is a psychic knot. And the other one is, I want to call it vrittis, which is basically like a samskara, I think of scar when I'm thinking of samskara. It's like events that have happened that leave, it's like neural pathways in your body that are like emotional memories in a way. So that this union of the breath merging in Sushumna Nadi is able to exhale and come up and purify all the way through your body. And it's not an escape, but merging with your source self through the crown of your head. So I'm emphasizing that it's not an escape because in the Kundalini yoga, which is in the West, brought by Yogi Bhajan. And I did also take Kundalini yoga teacher training before I moved to India. And, I'm not going to get into that whole Yogi Bhajan thing right now with Kundalini yoga. But the whole practice, you see them all wearing white, wearing a turban on their head. And the whole practice is the ascent and to escape and to merge with just, it's like go up and out, and there's a leaving the body and denying the senses, denying the physical emotions, denying money and pleasure and food, all of these things that are part of being human, part of the reason we are here with these beautiful bodies that are so sensational and able to feel so many things. It's like, why would we be here with all these senses if we weren't meant to use them and to enjoy them and have pleasure? So the Kundalini yoga that we have in the West is very much go out of here, get out of this disgusting meat box. And the Tantra, the Kashmirian ancient Tantra teachings, so I want you to not get confused when I say Tantra, because in the West, we've also taken the term Tantra yoga and made it into something that's about sexuality, when The Tantra teachings that I have received over the course of the last 10 years or so, in all the teachings I've received, there was literally one verse that had to do with sexuality. And it, out of hundreds and hundreds of verses and books upon books in my shelves that I've read, very little, very, very little about sexuality. So when I say Tantra, I'm talking about tantric yoga texts that date back far beyond, wow, what do we have here? Kubjika is one of the 9 tantric lineages founded in the 10th century AD. So these are really old. So I totally went off track of what I was talking about with the breath, union of sun and moon within the Sushumna Nadi, and that we're purifying. Oh, and then I went to Kundalini yoga in the West and up and out. But dating back before the colonization of everybody on the planet, this Tantra was based in how to live in this physical body with the senses, with dealing with money, exchanging things for what we need, how to do that in a way that honored our own body as divinity. So now this will take me into the preliminary practices. Again, preliminary, what? Because this is a practice. There's a breathing, it's called chakra vinyasa. It's a practice of breath work, bringing awareness down. You're drinking your lunar inhalation down into the pelvis. You're exhaling, making sounds, raising them up. This is called uchara, raising the sound vibration up through the chakras, and then it's like hitting that palate and breaking through the knots, merging with your source self, attunement with your source self. All right, so the preliminary practices are very beautiful, very beautiful. I'm not going to guide you through them because the teachings that I received, I wasn't guided through them. I was told how to do it, and then it's like you can go on your own and do that. And possibly when Mystic and I do a live teaching, I most likely will guide others through this practice that I've been doing myself, with the disclaimer that I can't read Sanskrit. I'm receiving teachings and trusting what I'm reading, what I'm receiving, without being able to read the text, which is an awkward place for me because everything that I've learned, I've actually gone to the country, received oral transmissions, and had a text that I could read myself. And I feel more confident sharing those teachings with other people. Whereas these, I don't really, and I definitely wouldn't do it on a video, but in circle, I most probably will share this. Okay, so the preliminary practices are installing the mantras into the hand. And then from the hand, you install these mantras into your body. And what this is saying is that, recognizing your own divinity, the sacredness of your own body. And from there, being able to, it brings it more to life. When there's a flower involved, you smell the flower, imagining it's the lotus. You put the mantras into your fingers, you touch your body with there's 5 seed syllables that we'll use. Put those in the places. And then there's a flower also that you can put the flower on the crown of your head and attune the flower to your chakra system, and then bring that flower and place it to the parts of your body so that it's really worshiping your body. And what a treat to have somebody else do this with the flower and touch you, So more on that at another time. So we have that. Then we have the directions. So in so many teachings from the ancient cultures, they honor the directions. Now, is it going to be 4 directions? Is it going to be 6 directions? Is it going to be 8 directions? I've received many teachings of various directions. For me, I use the 4 directions, the 4 cardinal directions. So I like to use the astrology, the map of the sky as well. So east being Aries, and going north being Capricorn, east, and then south being Cancer, and then west being Libra. Using that model is helpful for me to be able to also invoke the feelings of the season, of that specific sign, the direction, what's in that direction actually, and living in California with the ocean right over here to the west, and I see the sunrise every morning in the east. I can see the south, it ends, and I have a really good spatial awareness of the directions where I live here. So I personally do that practice every single day when I'm making tea. I honor the 4 directions. I call them in. It's like an honoring. Now, in this practice, you're honoring those 4 directions within yourself with their element. So each of the directions in this teaching, they're different because I think depending on your location on the planet, they're going to be different. So their meanings are also slightly different. So of course, I use what is natural in my body because of where I am spatially. And I always recommend people to do that because it makes more sense to where you are in time and space if you use what's around you rather than just going to a teaching, because whatever teaching you're taking from, it's going to be different. So do what is natural to you where you are on the planet. And if I go to India and the puja is set up in a certain way that the directions are there and they mean what they mean at that space, of course I'm going to honor that system. So it's more just where you are. So we're honoring the directions, and then there's purification of the throne. It's called Nadi Shodhana or Anuloma Viloma, alternate nostril breathing. If you've taken any courses with me before, I usually give this teaching at some point. I will give the teaching at the end of the 7 days. I'll give the breath practice, and I will mention how to move the sounds through your body during the breath pause and on the exhalation. Have I covered everything? We did the preparation. Okay, so there's purification of the elemental body, the ascent phase. So we're drawing Kundalini up, and then we're drawing Kundalini back down. The descent phase, this is where once Kundalini Shakti from the base of the spine has merged with Shiva in the crown of the head. This is your awareness. There's a merging there, and the drops of nectar, they call it the Amrita, which is the drops of nectar that drip back down, bringing Kundalini Shakti back down, but in the form of being merged with Shiva. I think about this like, for years, I was talking about uniting your feminine and masculine energy within yourself, uniting the feminine and masculine within so that you are whole and complete. This breath practice reminds me of that. It's like bringing Kundalini Shakti, the goddess, up, merging with Shiva, and then descending back down, whole and complete. So this is a preliminary practice before we do the breathing. So this is going to end this last introduction video, and then we're going to get into module 1. Thank you so much for joining me. Be prepared to unlearn anything that you've learned and, expand your mind a little bit. Be humbled in a way to receiving something new from something that you probably are really attached to at this point. I mean, I got these chakras tattooed on my back, the chakra system from the West. So when I discovered this, I was like, no, but also like, wow, everything is making so much more sense now that I'm receiving this teaching. So thank you so much. I look forward to taking this journey with you in the next module.